Hey everybody, you ever want to travel, you want to take your gun with you, not sure if you can do it, not sure how you can do it, but let's take a look at it. This is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms, and in this episode I kind of want to talk about things you need to be aware of if you're going to fly with a gun. I originally got intrigued with this. I know you could fly with a gun. I never really thought much about it, but I got intrigued when my wife told me that she had seen a video of a woman having an altercation at an airline check-in where the attendant was insisting that she take her gun out of the case so he or she could verify that it was unloaded. And the woman refused, and long story short, TSA got involved, and there was no major issue. But there were some concerns that perhaps the guy was anti-gun and wanted her to put her hands on her gun in an airport. And I could see where people might be slightly upset about that. However, my question was the airline person at the gate, or not at the gate, but at the baggage check-in, was that person out of line for asking this woman to take her gun out? All right, so before I go into discussing that stuff, if you bring a gun and you do something unique and exciting, like forget to lock it in a box and check it in your baggage, and you are going through security with it. And every year there's between 1,500 and 2,500 gun incidents like that. Somebody forgot they had a gun. I'm willing to bet some of the people thought they were just being smartasses and then found out the hard way that TSA doesn't take a particularly good view of you trying to walk in with a gun into the terminal. So, after doing a little bit of research, if you get caught with an unloaded gun, the fine is $2,050 to $4,100. If it's a loaded gun, it's $4,100 to $10,250. If your gun is unloaded but the ammunition is accessible, it's treated like a loaded gun. And if you get caught with a frame or a receiver or a silencer, the fine is $2,000 to $4,000. I have no idea what the range would be. In other words, why do you get a $4,100 fine for having a loaded gun and the next guy gets a $10,000 fine? It could be, maybe how big of an asshole you are at the gate. But you're not done there. The other part of this is, besides the TSA getting involved and fining you, they will take your gun away. I wasn't able to figure out if you actually get the gun back, but that's probably the least of your problems because local law enforcement will be notified. So you may wind up facing criminal charges as well. And how that happens, varies by state. So, to start with, now that we've gone through all of the fines that I'm aware of, let's talk about how to do things. Well, first, I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to be one. However, consult with one. And if you're carrying a gun and going, to another state, make sure you can have that gun in that state. Meaning, if you have a concealed carry permit, is there reciprocity with the state you're going to? Or does the state have a constitutional carry policy? If you're going overseas, probably worth checking with border control because you might have some issues coming back into the country with a gun. So, always check the laws first. Okay, so having said all of that, what do you need to do? All right, so you need to have a hard-sided case that is capable of being locked. So if it's a handgun case, It's going to go inside your regular baggage, and it has to be checked. You don't get to carry your gun on you. And I know some of you are going to go, but it's in a box and I want it. Well, they probably don't want you opening it while you're on the plane. If it's a long gun, we'll get to that in a second. But when they say hard-sided case, they're talking about, and I'm not pushing a brand, but something like a Pelican case that's really sturdy, sealed, you can lock it. They are not talking about the cheap plastic case that came with your pistol, because those are too easy to pry open. The other thing you need to consider with this is a lot of the handgun cases that I'm referring to have 2 locking points or 2 holes where you can hang locks. A lot of the long gun cases will have, like 4 of them. You need to have a lock on each one. You probably will want to use the TSA locks. Those are the locks that have that reddish kind of diamond or tipped over box kind of thing. There's lots of different versions, little combination ones, key ones. They run, I don't know, about $5 a piece. You can check Amazon. There are regular padlocks as well. Now, with TSA approved, basically it means that if there's a question and TSA needs to get into that gun case, they have master keys that can open TSA locks. So that's less of a hassle for you, because if they discover something and need to get into it, they're probably going to have to page you, have you come to the TSA thing. You may have to leave the terminal and then go through screening to get back in. So it's always easier to make sure everything is cool, everything's arranged the way it should be. And let's talk about that as well. So when you're carrying a gun, in addition to the locks, and by the way, the TSA locks, I got curious and went onto Amazon last night, and you can buy the master keys if you want. Those run about $5 or $10. On the other hand, if the bag is being checked, the airlines knows there's firearms with it. Now, in addition to having the lockbox and having it locked up, the gun has to be unloaded. The magazines, according to some airlines, can be loaded, but you can't have it in the gun. And, in fact, you may even want to use those cheap cable locks. The one that came with, or was supposed to come with, every gun you purchased. If they're going through their X-ray or whatever they're using for imaging, and they can see that there's a cable lock through that gun, they do not have to open the case to verify that that gun is not capable of being fired in its current state. Now, whether or not the magazine can be loaded does vary by airlines. The TSA has published, I don't want to call them laws, but guidelines, and each airline has fiddled with it, and I'm sure it was in response to dealing with various problems or special situations that no one thought of before. So check with the airlines. They have stuff posted. Some airlines will not let you have loaded magazines unless that you have a cover over the top of the magazine. And they want that because they do not want rounds rolling around. Can you put ammunition in the gun case? The answer is yes. It either needs to be in its original box, and it can also be in like a Plano or the MTM case guard ammunition boxes that separate the ammunition, so each round has its own little space. They do not want rounds rolling around and bumping into each other. And if it's in its original box, it should have the little plastic thingy that holds all of the ammunition. Okay, in addition to having done all that, you've got your case, you got your locks, you've unloaded the gun, etc. When you go up to the baggage check-in, there can be two things. You may be able to go to a regular check-in lane, and some airlines, and it may depend on how much traffic is there, they have special condition lane. And, whether it doesn't matter which lane you get into or which desk, you have to declare that you have a firearm. And if you're traveling with more than one, you have to declare that you have X number of firearms. They're going to mark your bag separately. Some airlines use like a green and white tag. Some airlines use a red tag. But you're also going to have to sign a declaration form. It's a little bit smaller than an index card. And essentially what you're doing is signing and saying that your gun is not loaded and it is safe to travel. Now, the example I used in the beginning with the woman having this argument with the airline worker, the airline worker was partially correct. They can actually ask to see the gun. And that's fine. You should not pick the gun up. So if it's in a case, open the case. The declaration card is going to get jostled around if it's inside your bag. So if you're dealing with a regular pistol case, just ask them for a piece of tape and tape the declaration card to the gun case. And the reason for that is, if TSA sees it, because remember, it's going to go through screening, because, checked baggage goes through essentially what you do at the gate. They see a gun, they may choose to want to open it. And if they can't see that orange card or whatever color that airline is using for the declaration, they don't want to have to root around in your luggage, and I'm willing to bet you don't want somebody digging around in your luggage. The other thing you should do, by the way, is with the locks, keep the keys on you, like with you and with your carry-on in case they do need to get them open. So let's continue forward with this. My advice would be, if you're laying things out in the gun case, lay them out neatly. And I'm not saying this to be a pain in the ass, but you want to go through check-in, and you want to be able to get your bag, you want to be able to get your gun, or get your gun checked in with as little hassle as possible. So laying it out neatly, well, if you know me, I'm a slob, but laying the gun out neatly means when it goes through their imaging, they get a clear picture. If everything's jumbled inside that case, they may want to open it up so they can verify that it is indeed unloaded. If you're at the check-in and the airline check-in person is saying, look, I need to see the gun, if you open up the case, don't do it in front of everybody. I mean, they're going to figure out you probably have a gun, especially if you're using a long gun case, but they don't need to see what you're traveling with. So you just open it up so that the person can view it. Now, when you fly, your bag is not going to go on the carousel, or at the very least, it should not go on the carousel. What should happen is someone will take it to the baggage claim office for that particular airline. And you're going to have to show some ID and presumably show your baggage tickets so they can verify it's you and you're getting that bag. Before you leave, though, I would suggest you open up the bag and verify that your gun case is still in